The woman standing in the doorway was supposed to be dead. At least, that's what Michael had believed for the past 5 years. Yet there she was, the spitting image of his late wife, staring back at him with the same hazel eyes that had once been his whole world, her hand frozen on the doorknob as she gazed down at the little girl clutching his hand. If you're feeling that chill down your spine already, you'll want to stay until the very end of this incredible story. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more extraordinary true stories that remind us how life's most unexpected moments can change everything. Michael Bennett had mastered the art of functional exhaustion. At 34, his life revolved around his software engineering job and raising his 7-year-old son, Ethan, alone. 5 years had passed since the car accident that took his wife, Claire, leaving him to navigate the complexities of single parenthood while nursing a grief that never fully healed. Their modest 2-bedroom apartment in Portland had become a sanctuary of sorts, a place where Michael could maintain the delicate balance between work deadlines and school pickups, between being both mother and father to a boy who still sometimes cried for his mom at night. Sunday mornings were sacred. While most of his colleagues used weekends to catch up on sleep, Michael was up by 7, making dinosaur-shaped pancakes for Ethan before their weekly trip to Laurelhurst Park. It was their tradition, a few precious hours where Michael could set aside the weight of responsibility and simply be present with his son. This particular Sunday in early October brought the first real chill of autumn. The trees had begun their transformation, painting the park in warm hues of amber and crimson. Michael sat on their usual bench, watching Ethan climb the jungle gym with newfound confidence. "Dad, watch this." Ethan called out, preparing to traverse the monkey bars for the first time without help. Michael raised his coffee in salute. "I'm watching, buddy. You've got this." As Ethan made his way across, grip by determined grip, Michael felt that familiar pang, wishing Claire could see these moments, these small victories that marked their son's growth. He imagined her sitting beside him, her camera ready to capture Ethan's triumphant smile when he reached the end. It was during this moment of bittersweet reflection that Michael noticed the little girl. She couldn't have been more than 4 years old, sitting alone on a bench near the duck pond, her legs swinging without quite reaching the ground. She wore a purple jacket with a unicorn backpack beside her, her dark hair falling in messy pigtails. What struck Michael most was how still she sat, how intently she watched the ducks, and how completely alone she was. Michael scanned the area, expecting to see a distracted parent nearby on a phone call or chatting with another adult. But the morning crowd was thin, and no one seemed to be looking for a child. "Ethan," he called, "come down for a minute, please." Once his son was beside him, Michael approached the little girl cautiously, not wanting to frighten her. "Hi there," he said gently, crouching to her eye level. "Are you here by yourself?" The girl looked up at him with solemn brown eyes. "I'm waiting for my mommy," she said, her voice small but surprisingly composed. "Where did you last see your mommy?" Michael asked, feeling Ethan press against his side, curious but shy. "She told me to wait here," the girl replied, clutching a worn stuffed rabbit tighter. "She said she'd come back." A knot formed in Michael's stomach. "How long ago was that, sweetheart?" The girl shrugged. "A long time." The sun was different. Michael checked his watch, it was nearly 10:30 a.m. If the girl had been here since early morning or, worse, since yesterday. "What's your name?" he asked. "Lily," she answered, then added with the precision only a child could muster, "Lily Grace Thompson." "I'm 4 3/4. "That's a beautiful name, Lily." "I'm Michael, and this is my son, Ethan. He's 7. Ethan gave a small wave, which Lily returned with the hint of a smile. "Lily, I think we should try to find your mommy. Do you know her phone number or where you live?" Lily's face clouded. "Mommy said not to tell strangers where we live. It's a secret." The knot in Michael's stomach tightened. Something wasn't right. "That's very smart of your mom," he assured her. "But I think we need to get some help finding her." Would it be okay if we talked to a police officer? They help find mommies all the time. Lily's eyes widened at the mention of police, and she shook her head vigorously. No police. Mommy said no police ever. Michael exchanged a concerned glance with Ethan, who was watching the interaction with growing worry. Dad, Ethan whispered, maybe she's hungry? We could give her some of our snacks while we figure it out. Michael smiled at his son's compassion. That's a great idea, buddy. He pulled out their small cooler bag, offering Lily an apple juice box and some graham crackers, which she accepted after a moment's hesitation. As she ate, Michael discreetly took out his phone and texted his neighbor, Sarah, a social worker who might know the proper protocol for this situation. Sarah's response was quick, call non-emergency police line. Don't leave her alone. Check for ID in her backpack if possible. Lily, Michael said carefully, is it okay if I look in your backpack? There might be something in there that could help us find your mom. After a moment's consideration, Lily nodded, pulling her unicorn backpack onto her lap and unzipping it herself. Inside was a change of clothes, a water bottle, a small photo album, and an envelope. Can I see that album? Michael asked. Lily handed it over, and Michael flipped through it with Ethan peering over his shoulder. There were photos of Lily at various ages with a woman he presumed was her mother, a slender woman with the same dark hair as Lily, though her face was oddly obscured or turned away in most shots. There were no photos of a father or other family members. The envelope contained $200 in cash and a handwritten note that made Michael's blood run cold. To whoever finds Lily, please take care of her. I can't anymore. She deserves better than a life on the run. Don't try to find me. There was no signature, no explanation beyond those cryptic lines. Lily, Michael asked, trying to keep his voice steady, did your mommy give you this backpack today? Lily nodded. She said it has everything I need for my adventure. Michael felt a surge of anger toward this unknown woman who had abandoned her child in a park with nothing but a backpack and a vague promise to return. But he kept his expression neutral for Lily's sake. I think, he said carefully, that your mommy might be delayed. Would you like to come with Ethan and me for a little while? We can have lunch and maybe watch a movie while we wait for her. It wasn't the proper protocol, he knew that. He should call the police immediately. But something in Lily's frightened reaction to the mention of authorities gave him pause. Whatever situation this child was in, it was complicated, and the last thing he wanted was to traumatize her further. Lily looked at Ethan, who offered an encouraging smile, then back at Michael. Will we still be able to see when my mommy comes back? She asked. We can leave a note, Michael suggested, with my phone number. That way, if your mommy comes looking for you, she can call us right away. This seemed to satisfy Lily. Michael quickly scribbled a note on a receipt from his wallet, tucked it into a plastic bag to protect it from the elements, and wedged it securely under the bench where Lily had been sitting. As they walked back to Michael's apartment, Lily between them holding both their hands, Michael tried to process what he was doing. Taking an unknown child home without contacting authorities went against every rational thought in his head. But something about Lily's situation, the note, her fear of police, the careful way her mother had packed that backpack, suggested a story more complex than simple abandonment. He would call the non-emergency line from home, he decided. He'd explain the situation and follow their guidance. But first, he wanted to make sure Lily felt safe. Their apartment was only a 10-minute walk from the park. As they approached the building, Ethan chatted animatedly with Lily about his collection of dinosaur figures, promising to show her his favorite T-Rex. Do you like dinosaurs? Ethan asked as they climbed the stairs to the second floor. I like the ones with the long necks, Lily replied, the first hint of childlike enthusiasm in her voice. Brachiosaurus. Ethan exclaimed. I have 2 of those. Michael smiled despite his concern. Children were remarkably resilient, finding common ground even in the strangest circumstances. At the door to apartment 2B, Michael fished out his keys, balancing the cooler bag and Lily's backpack while unlocking the door. He pushed it open, ushering the children inside. "Make yourself at home, Lily. The bathroom is down the hall if you need it, Anne." The words died in his throat as the door to the kitchen swung open. A woman stood there, dish towel in hand, her dark hair pulled back in a messy bun. For one impossible moment, Michael thought he was looking at Claire, a ghost, a hallucination born of grief and exhaustion. But it wasn't Claire. It was her twin sister, Catherine. The sister who had disappeared from their lives shortly after Claire's funeral, leaving only a terse note about needing space and time. The sister who had once been as much a part of their family as Claire herself, until grief had torn them apart. The sister who now stood frozen in his kitchen, staring not at him or Ethan, but at the little girl between them. "Mommy!" Lily cried, breaking the silence as she ran forward. Catherine dropped to her knees, gathering Lily into her arms with a sob that seemed to contain both relief and terror. "Lily, oh my God, Lily," she repeated, pressing kisses to the child's hair, her face, her hands. "How did you, where did you?" She looked up at Michael, her eyes, so hauntingly similar to Claire's, wide with fear. "Michael," she whispered. "I can explain." Michael felt as though the floor had disappeared beneath him. Catherine. Here in his apartment. With a key he hadn't given her. And somehow, impossibly, she was Lily's mother, the woman who had abandoned her child in the park with instructions never to contact police. "Ethan," he said, his voice sounding distant to his own ears, "why don't you go to your room for a bit?" "But Dad." "Please, buddy. Just for a little while." Ethan looked between the adults, confusion evident on his face, but he nodded and retreated down the hall, casting one last curious glance at Lily and Catherine before closing his bedroom door. Michael set down the bags he was carrying with deliberate calm, though he felt anything but calm inside. "You have 5 minutes to tell me what the hell is going on," he said quietly, "before I call the police." Catherine flinched at the mention of police, just as Lily had. She rose to her feet, keeping Lily close against her side. "Not in front of her," Catherine said. "Please." Michael nodded stiffly toward the balcony, a small concrete slab barely big enough for 2 chairs, but private enough for this conversation. "Lily, sweetheart," Catherine said, kneeling again to her daughter's level. "Can you sit on the couch for a few minutes? I need to talk to Mr. Michael." "Is he mad at you?" Lily asked, her voice small. Catherine's face crumpled slightly. "He's confused, honey. I need to explain some things to him. You can watch TV if you want." Once Lily was settled with the remote, Catherine followed Michael onto the balcony, closing the glass door behind them. The October air felt colder now, or perhaps it was just the chill between them. "How did you get into my apartment?" Michael demanded. Catherine wrapped her arms around herself. "I still had the spare key. From before, from when Claire was alive. I've been staying here while you and Ethan are out during the day. I never thought you'd come home early today." "You've been breaking into my home?" "For how long?" 3 days, she admitted. "I had nowhere else to go that was safe. I was always careful to leave before you got home. I'd wash any dishes I used, make sure everything was exactly as you left it." Michael ran a hand through his hair, trying to process this information. "And Lily? You abandoned your daughter in a park with a note telling strangers to take her?" Catherine's eyes filled with tears. "I didn't abandon her. I was watching from a distance. I saw you approach her, saw how gentle you were. I recognized you, obviously. I knew she'd be safe with you." "That doesn't answer my question," Michael pressed. "Why leave her at all? What kind of mother does that?" "A desperate one," Catherine shot back, a flash of defiance breaking through her remorse. "A mother who's trying to protect her daughter from a man who's promised to kill us both." Michael stared at her, the anger in his chest giving way to confusion. What are you talking about? Catherine sank into one of the balcony chairs, suddenly looking exhausted beyond measure. After Claire died, I was a mess. We all were. But I handled it worse than most. Started drinking too much, fell in with the wrong people. She looked up at him, shame evident in her expression. I met a man named James Harrington at a bar about 4 years ago. He seemed kind at first, successful. He owned several businesses in Seattle, legitimate ones, as far as I knew. Michael remained standing, unwilling to soften toward her yet. And he's Lily's father? Catherine nodded. We moved in together after just 2 months. I got pregnant soon after. It wasn't until I was already showing that I started to see who he really was. The businesses were fronts for money laundering. He had connections to organized crime. And he had a temper. She pushed up her sleeve, revealing a faded scar along her forearm. This was from the first time I questioned where he'd been all night. There were worse incidents after that. Despite his anger, Michael felt a pang of sympathy. Why didn't you leave? I tried, once, when Lily was about a year old. He found us at a women's shelter in Tacoma. Somehow he had people inside the system, knew where to look. He didn't hurt us that time, just brought us home and made it very clear what would happen if I tried again. Catherine's voice had gone flat, recounting the horror with the detachment of someone who had replayed it too many times. He said he'd kill me and take Lily, raise her himself. I couldn't let that happen. Michael finally sat in the chair opposite her. So what changed? Why run now? 2 weeks ago, I overheard a conversation between James and one of his associates. They were discussing a federal investigation closing in on their operation. James was planning to take Lily and me to Mexico, then further south. He has property in Argentina, apparently. Catherine's hands trembled slightly. The way he talked about it, it wasn't about keeping us safe. It was about maintaining his control. I realized we might never come back, that Lily would grow up in that world. She looked directly at Michael, her eyes, Claire's eyes, pleading for understanding. So I planned. I waited until he left for a 3-day business trip to Chicago. I took what cash I could find, our passports, and we ran. But he has resources, Michael. He has people everywhere. We've been moving constantly, staying in cheap motels, changing buses every few hours. And you came to Portland, to me? Michael asked, still struggling to connect the pieces. Catherine nodded. I didn't know where else to go. I couldn't risk contacting any of my old friends, James knows them all. But you were Claire's husband, not really my family anymore. I thought he wouldn't think to look here. So you broke into my apartment. I was desperate, she repeated. We needed somewhere safe to sleep while I figured out our next move. I was going to be gone before you ever knew. And Lily? Leaving her in the park? Catherine's composure finally broke, tears streaming down her face. I panicked this morning. I saw a man watching the building when I went out for coffee. He looked like one of James's security guys. I thought they'd found us. She wiped roughly at her tears. I couldn't lead them to Lily. So I took her to the park, told her to wait. I planned to circle back, make sure we weren't being followed, then get her and leave Portland immediately. But you came back here instead, Michael observed.